how can we learn from the leaders, educators, and experts in our industry? What can we take away from their successes and failures? How can we apply this to our businesses, our careers, and our lives? This is what we are here to find out. I'm your host, Karthik Chidambaram, CEO of DC Cap. We make systems, talk to each other for manufacturers and distributors. I love to learn and share the knowledge with others. This podcast is about having meaningful conversations that we can all learn from. Thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoy this conversation. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Driven by DC Cap podcast. I'm your host, Karthik Chidambaram, CEO of DC Cap. We make systems talk to each other for manufacturers and distributors. We are joined by a very special guest, Jim Derry, CEO of Field Fasteners. We are talking from Washington, D.C. Jim, thank you so much for joining me. It's great to have you join the Driven Show.
Gosh, thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm excited to be a part of it.
So Jim, Field Fasteners story is very interesting. I was reading about it. You guys started in the 1990s, or you bought the business in the 1990s, you and your brothers.
Yep.
So
One brother Bill.
Oh, just the two of you?
Yep.
Okay, the two of you bought the Field Fastener business.
Yep.
And when you bought it, the business was just doing about $800,000 in revenue.
Yep. 12 people.
12 people, $800,000 revenue.
In a really, really dumpy building. I mean, really, it was terrible. Yeah.
But I'm just curious, right? Did you have experience in the fastener business, or how did you get into this?
In a word, no, I didn't. But my brother, Bill, he's 10 years older than I am. He was in the fastener manufacturing business. Back then, Rockford, Illinois, our hometown and the location of the business, was the fastener manufacturing capital of the world. And actually, my brother Bill worked for Dick Field at the same company. Dick worked for this company for a bunch of years, retired, and started Field. And Dick was getting to the point where he wanted to retire and get out of it. My brother Bill and Dick were friends. And long story short, Bill said, hey, why don't we buy this company? I was living in Minnesota, I was selling computers, and he thought it'd be a good idea. And I was 29 at the time, honestly didn't really know enough from a bolt. And I kind of figured, like, what the heck? Well, why not? So we picked up, moved our family. We had one son, and my wife was pregnant. We moved back home and bought this little company. And Bill was going to stay in corporate America. He was an investor in the business initially. And I look back and honestly laughed. I really had no business running a business back then. But we just kind of thought that really it was a bet on ourselves. Like, let's do this. I was working for a great company. It was a giant, 25,000 people. I knew I wasn't going to work there forever and retire and get a gold watch. I kind of always felt I'd get into my own business. And this opportunity presented itself, and it's like, what the heck, why not?
So you talked about you just had 12 people when you bought the business and 800,000 revenue. But one thing I find very fascinating is you guys have been growing at 20% every year, and today you're just a little under $200 million in revenue, or 180 million, if that's right. Was that a planned strategy? Because I think, the power of compounding works like magic, right? And 20% every year, I mean, how did that happen?
We could never have dreamt this. I think when we did our projections and financial modeling and buying the business, I think we got the revenue up to $5 million and thought, gosh, if we could do that, that'd be pretty cool. But there's just no way you could predict kind of what has happened. But as we got into it, it just started to click, and we made some decisions early on to really have a real clear focus of the business to provide these inventory management systems. We sell fasteners. Our customers generally build stuff. They build football helmets, they build elevators, they build train cars, garbage trucks. So they use our parts in their production of their products. So we provide vendor managed inventory systems, and then we're really good at providing technical support. So we started doing that in the early 90s, and it's at the base of what we do today.
Yeah, I talked about football. Rydell, I know, is one of your customers, is one of our customers as well. We enjoy working with them. But vendor managed inventory, is that how the whole fastener industry works, or did you guys were a pioneer in that process?
It started really right in the very early 90s, and we didn't invent it, but we saw it as a way to differentiate ourselves. Again, the business was really small, kind of this dumpy little thing. But when we started, for a $2,000 investment to get a barcode reader and a barcode printer, all of a sudden we kind of look pretty high tech, right? So you put some barcode labels on a bin and we're doing vendor managed inventory. And it really changed the whole kind of way people looked at us and our ability to go after large customers and basically start selling and really growing the business. But so that was a part of it. But the ability, and this is Bill's orientation, was to provide a technical support, like to look at fastening and joining and help our customers use the right fasteners, put the right torque on it so that whatever they're building stayed together and it was done the most efficient way and the cost-effective way. Those two things back then were incredibly powerful together, and they still really are. That's what differentiates us today. And it's a fun thing is that it differentiated us in the early 90s, and it still does today.
So is that more people-driven? I'm sure it was then, right? But is it more tech-enabled as well right now? For instance, right, you talked about which fastener to use where, and that's a question a lot of us have. Let's say I'm even doing something, I don't know what to buy, I really need help from somebody, right? But then I go to a store and I ask them, hey, what, this is what I'm trying to do. But then oftentimes, it depends on luck, right? I have to find the right guy, even if I go to a Home Depot. I have to find the right guy, but let's say, the guy I talk to, he doesn't have that information. Then I buy something, it doesn't work. Then I go another time, hey, I don't want to work with this guy. You didn't provide me the right information. How does that work and how has that evolved?
It's funny though, because our customers kind of have that, their engineering people are kind of like what your experience is at Home Depot. Some of them really get it, they understand it, but a lot of them don't. So we have a whole team of applications engineers that are highly trained, and their whole world is to go work with our current and potential customers to help them find a way to better fasten and join things together, to look at, again, head styles, thread profiles, torque, tension, all that stuff, so that when you put a fastener into a joint, it stays there, it holds together whatever needs to be held under whatever operating condition it ends up in. So there's a lot of expertise that goes into that, and quite frankly, we have probably more of that than any other company in our business based on relatively to our size, right? So we have a bunch of engineers that spend a lot of time in front of our customers and prospects, and that's really why people tend to choose us, right? Because lots of companies can put parts in bins and manage inventory, but providing the technical support proactively that really ultimately helps our customers save money year in and year out, that's really what kind of makes things different.
And are you guys leveraging AI? I mean, I know AI is a buzzword, or maybe are you leveraging technology so that, hey, that knowledge is passed on from one team to another? Because there are a lot of people who are joining new, and there is also an aging workforce. How are you managing that, that know-how?
Yeah, the AI, I would say we're really I've really challenged like our leaders of all the functional areas in the business to find a way to use AI, right? Whether it's in marketing or human resources or the training and development folks, and to some degree, the application engineers can do that, right? So now our customers have more access to fastener stuff because of AI. So that just means we have to continue to up our game so that we really are bringing the highest quality and most effective technical support solutions. It's hard to really like plug in all the characteristics into an AI model and have somebody really have it tell you exactly what to do in the right application. But so our people really are it's critical that they're very, very technically oriented.
And you have to, make sure you invest in training and make sure they are up to.
And we have the ability to do a fair amount of high-end testing. We bought an engineering consulting firm a bunch of years ago, so we have the ability to measure torque and tension and load and all that kind of stuff. So we have the ability to really analyze joints and then make recommendations for the right solutions that ultimately are going to help our customers they fasten and join the most effective way possible.
So what is one thing, right, which you think, or maybe, I know it's hard to say one thing, but what are maybe a couple of things which really led to your growth or consistent growth? I think that's where a lot of businesses struggle, right? Yeah. So maybe I have a very good year, and then the next year may not be so good, and maybe let's say, I'm at like 10 million revenue, I hit 15. Next year I might come down to 13, and then I have to come back up, right? So what do you think that differentiates you guys?
There's really two things. Because this is a people business, right? We all sell the same stuff. We all have trucks, computers. Everybody does barcoding now. So first thing is all about people. So it's finding and keeping the right people. That's first and foremost. And the second is we just stay really true to our value proposition. We are good at what I just talked about, vendor managed inventory and providing technical support services. So as we talk to a potential customer, if they don't see value in what we do, then it's just not a good fit, right? We don't compete on price. We don't, we do what we do. And if a customer doesn't have those needs, then we just go on to the next opportunity. So I would say we're laser focused on who we choose to do business with, and equally as focused on who we choose to hire in our organization. Because and we're good at that. We know how to do those kinds of things, and candidly, the market for that is enormous. I mean, we're pretty excited about being, a couple $100 million in revenue, but we could grow at 20% for the rest of my life and still, hardly be up on the map of kind of the big companies. So it's a huge market. So just staying true to what we know we're really good at.
One thing I find very interesting in the way you guys do it as well is you also focus on the profitability of the customer, right? Yeah. So in terms of, hey, it's not just about Field Fastener being profitable. It's about the customer we are working with. We want to make sure that they are profitable. Yeah. So tell us about that. You know?
Well, that's really kind of the underlying kind of theme or kind of war cry for our application engineers, right? We want to be the best at helping our customers save money. And if we help them save money, they become profitable. And quite frankly, that kind of keeps our competitors out, right? So they're not, our customers, if we're doing a really good job proactively helping them save money and making sure they don't run out of parts, they're not likely to beat us up on a price for, your competitor's 2% cheaper. We're like, well, who cares, right? So if we're really good at providing the services that we offer, well, then we ought to get paid for that, right? If we're helping them save money, well, then many times if we bring out an opportunity, like here's a way to save a customer $100,000. Well, our profit ought to go up some as well, right? So if we do this right, our customers save money and we make more money in the process. And ultimately, we create a loyalty and a relationship with a customer that they want to keep us as a supplier. So we tend to not lose customers. I guess that's the point in this growth. Many companies, they grow 10%, but they lose 5%, and they grow. So in our 30-some years of doing this, there's probably 5 customers that went away that we didn't want them to. So we've done a pretty good job of kind of keeping customers. So the new growth just incrementally adds. It's not like filling a hole kind of customers that left. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. But let's say you save a lot of money for a customer, right? So you tell them, hey, we have saved so much, so we're going to increase our prices. Is that how you do it? Or
no. I think what we can do in this is like if we know what a current application is, and we come up with a better way. Well, we know what the cost of that is, so we know what we can save them some money. But we look at our margin on the parts that we're selling them. That's going to save them a bunch of money. We can make a little bit more money on that. We don't have to necessarily advertise that, but we know that the solution is probably not. They're not going to scrutinize the cost of the parts in the solution because it's saving them a bunch of money. So we can basically get paid for our services by making a little bit more money, and when we save our customers money. So we both can win.
Yeah. Jim, you were also the president of NFDA, National Fastener Distributor Association. Tell us about your work there and how is that helping your business? And you're also at NAW, National Association of Wholesale Distribution. You're a board member.
Yeah.
So tell us about your learnings there. And
So the NFDA was great. I remember when we had to get to $5 million in revenue to join, and it was wonderful. We learned so much from. There were so many kind of icons in our industry that were a part of that association, and I just remember that they were incredibly helpful. I'm this again little snot-nosed kid, 30 years old, and I didn't really know much. And so many of them were just super helpful. And so I did get a chance to get on the board and be the president, and I found that. There's a lot of strong-willed people, right? These are business owners, and they're leaders, and they're on a board, and to kind of manage those personalities and egos was challenging, right? It was a kind of a good time to kind of test out my leadership skill. To some regard, it's kind of herding cats, right? There's a lot of strong personalities, but it just kind of helped me figure out how to manage different kinds of personalities. And what's really interesting, so when I joined the NAW 30 years after that, it's kind of like that same thing now. I feel like the small guy and kind of wide-eyed with it. There's so many great members of this organization. I've learned so much in the last couple of years being a part of the NAW because the people are super willing to share insights and perspective. And it's been so helpful, just a wonderful experience. And I was honored, honestly, to be asked to join the board. So NAW's been a great organization.
Yeah, congratulations. Switching gears a little bit, there are a lot of private equity players in the market, and but you guys have always kept it in the family, and that's
Yes.
what you intend to do. One thing which is also cool is something I read or watched is even with respect to family members, you got to be on par with the rest, right? But let's say if somebody is not on par with the rest of the team, they just can't be at the job. Is that how you approach it?
Yeah, I think the expectations of our family are higher than they are of anyone else, right? Because, and Bill and I both have two sons in the business. So, and we've done all the work to kind of keep the business in our family with these trusts and shareholders agreements. So we hope the business stays in our family. But the only way that makes sense and it works is if our children perform at the level that we expect, right? So they come into it knowing there's a very high bar. And early on, they probably have to work harder than anybody else of their peers just to kind of be viewed as being the same. Just because I think there's a tendency like, oh, he's the boss's kids. You know, they're probably lazy and they're slouches. But our kids have all kind of worked through that, and you know, they stand on their own and they've done a nice job. But it's a lot of work. There was a fair amount of, I would say, pressure to kind of continue the success the company's enjoyed. I mean, so it's in a good way, right? It's not overly stressful, but you know, Bill and I are both kind of, you know, in the fourth quarter of our careers. You know, Bill's 73, I'm 63. Bill's son Adam is our president. So the second generation is now leading the business. So they're feeling the pressure to kind of, hey, we gotta keep this going.
So you're also a Six Sigma black belt, so I'm a little scared.
No, not the karate kind. No, my brother, he's actually a black belt. You got to be scared of him.
Yeah. Tell us about that, right? I mean, what drives you, right? The theme of this podcast is driven.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've seen a lot of success, and you guys have grown the business. But what drives you today?
Yeah. Candidly, it goes back to solving problems for our customers. I mean, that's, I guess, as I pondered that, that's what this is all about. You know, it was a degree, a mechanical engineering college, and that's all about solving problems. This Six Sigma black belt came relatively early on in my career, and actually one of our customers offered this training. I jumped at the chance to do it because kind of as an engineer, I'm kind of a data geek. You know, I like looking at data to help solve problems. And that's really what it boiled down to, is looking at a situation, get the right data, and have it help us solve problems. And we found that those tools, that the tool set, then the learning around a Six Sigma black belt is applicable everywhere. I mean, it doesn't any part of the business, the operations part, the office part. The only time where the black belt stuff doesn't really work is at home, right? My wife doesn't want to hear about that. She doesn't want to hear about efficiency and, you know, we could do this in the kitchen better. She's like, you know, leave that stuff at work.
No, I can totally relate to that, right? Because I think whatever works at work, sometimes, you know, you learn all these things, you know, Six Sigma, black belt and all that, and you try to apply that at home.
Yeah,
hey, it doesn't work.
Wife doesn't want to hear about that.
Yeah.
But there's countless examples of where it didn't have to be a formal Six Sigma project, but the whole idea around looking at the data to help drive improvements. So a couple of years ago, we put an addition into our distribution center in Rockford, and we wanted to go to this carts to parts, more of a mobile workstation kind of a thing. And we struggled initially getting that working, but over time, the warehouse team kind of started to see some little wins and some successes, and they really bought into this because they could see now the improvements and over time, over a couple of years, it totally transformed everything we did in the operations part of our business, and now we do that everywhere. So once it got started, the momentum built and built and built, and again, it was so helpful because there's so much data in the operations, you know, picks and times and distances and all those things. We could use that data to really drive improvement.
No, it definitely helps in improving efficiency and operations. Talking about giving back, I think you guys also give back a lot to the communities you serve in. And I think that's a great purpose to have. Instead of just going another route or selling out, you know, you're able to do so much more by running the business profitably.
Yeah.
Talk us through that thought process.
Yeah, that's a great question. in 2019, we put together a 10-year strategic plan that go from 2020 to 2030. And at the center of that strategic plan is improving lives. So really, the essence of everything we do is improving lives. And that's the lives of our people, their families, our customers, and the communities that we operate in. So we put a big effort in trying to make a difference. We created a team called the Do Good Team, and their responsibility really is to identify organizations that we can partner with to make a big impact on our communities. And each one of our operations, we call them centers of excellence, they have a budget and they can pick whatever local organizations they choose to work with and do what they think is best. But we look for organizations where we can match our human resources, like our team can volunteer, and then we provide some financial resources so that we can have the biggest impact. So it's super important. We've been incredibly blessed as an organization, and Bill and I feel compelled to, we got to give back. We've got to be a great corporate citizen. God has blessed us abundantly, and it's an expectation that we have on each other and the organization to give back. And to that end, every person on the team can have a week's paid vacation to volunteer at a nonprofit organization. So we were trying to put our money where our mouth is. And yeah, just quite frankly, just a couple months ago in Rockford, we were voted the most philanthropic company in the community. So that meant a ton. It really did, because it isn't what Bill and I do, it's how our team embraces this. I mean, they really do put a big, sincere effort into making a difference in our community. And it's just super gratifying to see that, right? We kind of threw this idea out there and the team just kind of took it and ran with it. They took it to a level we could never imagine. So, but it's fun. But especially young people, they want to come to work for an organization that kind of has a soul, right? That has a purpose. And it isn't just like, we have to make money. I mean, that's part of the deal. But we're committed every year to give a bigger portion of the operating profits back to improving lives. So every year as we make more money, a bigger percentage of that goes to improving lives. So we're kind of trying to walk the talk in this way.
Make money, have fun, give back.
Yeah, exactly.
What are some things you do outside of work?
Well, I'm kind of an adrenaline junkie. I like to go fast. I like to ride my bike and snow ski and water ski and snowmobiles. I have a car I take onto a track and race. Try to stay fit, work out pretty much. So yeah, and we spend a ton of time with our family. We got 4 kids and 6 granddaughters, so we spend a lot of time together as a family.
Awesome. So you work out every day, or?
Try to.
Awesome. And what's something you're reading or something you've learning right now?
Well, one of the things I've been really focused on the last couple of years is emotional intelligence. There's tons of books and podcasts and stuff, and it's a really learnable skill. And I wish someone would have told me about this 30 years ago. I don't think I had invented it when I started in my kind of role as a leader. But I'm a big fan of trying to become more emotionally intelligent and more aware, and reading people. I'm fascinated by it. I'm reading a book right now to know a person, Herb Brooks, I think. Brooks is a lot, and it's just really interesting to kind of get to understand kind of how people think. And that's not empathy is kind of not my strong suit. I'm an engineer and a data geek, so it's just an interesting way to kind of help to really kind of understand how people how they see the world so differently, and trying to understand why people see the world so differently.
There's another great book on this called The Psychology of Influence. Have you read that?
I have not.
Yeah, I think that's a great book to check out on the same genre. So Jim, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for your time, and thanks for joining me on The Driven Show.
All right, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you for joining our Driven by DC Cap podcast. Your support means a lot to us. If you enjoyed this episode, please click the like button and subscribe. Consider leaving us a review. Thank you for joining us.